The film opens by showing the condition of the earth that is dying. All the plants die and only corn can survive. The wind that blows hard every day brings dust and sand that complicate human life on Earth. On the brink of human extinction, a man named Cooper is constantly looking for ways to get out of this situation. Cooper is a skilled ex-astronaut, but now he works as a corn farmer to support himself and his family members. Cooper lives with his 2 children, Tom and Murph, and his father-in-law, Donald. The past few days, Murph has been having frequent disturbances in his room which he thinks are ghosts. But repeatedly Cooper checked it, he found nothing. One morning, Cooper went by car to take his son to school, but on the way their car tire suddenly leaked, so they had to pull over and replace it. Not long after, they saw a drone belonging to the Indian Air Force passing by them. Cooper rushes after him, because the drone contains solar panels, which can be used to power all of his farm machinery. It didn't take long for Cooper. He immediately hacked into the drone system and managed to master it. After dropping his son off at school, he prepared to take the drone home. However, before walking away he gets a call from Donald who reveals a strange incident, as the machines they used to use in the fields suddenly started moving towards Murph's room. After returning home, Cooper saw a strange sight and he immediately entered Murph's room, and found that there were several books that had fallen. Murph then revealed that the books had nothing to do with this strange incident. He also said he was analyzing the fallen books by calculating the free space of each book, and he concluded that it was like a Morse code pattern, as if the ghost wants to communicate with them via Morse. But Cooper denies it and says if he knows Morse code too, and it's impossible for this bookshelf to communicate with Murph. Not long after a big sandstorm hit Cooper's fields, he and his family members then hid in the house and tightly closed every window. But when they were about to close the window in Murph's room, they found something strange again, where the dust and sand that entered the room formed a pattern like a code, with hints of thick and thin lines. Cooper, the curious, kept looking at the pattern and trying to figure out what it meant. In the morning, Murph woke up from sleep and saw that his father was still looking at the pattern, so he came and accompanied him. After that, Cooper told Murph that the pattern was not Morse but a binary. Binary is a system of writing numbers using 2 symbols, namely 0 and 1. Thick is 1 and thin is 0. Cooper continued to analyze it until he finally found something, that the binary lines are coordinates. Cooper marked it on the map and immediately went where the binary indicated. Arriving at the location, it turns out that the coordinates lead to a secret facility belonging to NASA. When Cooper tried to enter, he was spotted by a guard robot named Tars. Tars is a sophisticated robot that has intelligence above humans. Then he drugged Cooper and took him inside. After recovering, Cooper meets a woman named Amelia Grand, who is the daughter of Professor Grand, and she is also an astronaut. Cooper knew Professor Grand because he used to work with him. Then Amelia took Cooper to a room, which seemed to be having a special discussion with NASA officials, and Professor Grand was also there. After Cooper joins, Professor Grand explains that they are carrying out a secret mission, namely a mission to find another habitable planet, because the Earth is already on the verge of destruction. 10 years ago he sent 12 astronauts into space to search for and analyze other habitable planets like Earth, and of the 12 astronauts, only 3 astronauts sent signals and provided data that the planet they were visiting was habitable, and now they send a signal for pickup. If it is true that any of these 3 planets enter the habitable classification, Professor Grand has 2 plans prepared for that. In the first, he will bring all humans on Earth to the planet in a giant spaceship, which is currently still in the development stage, only he still can't solve the gravity problem. Then the second is a population bomb. More than 5,000 fertilized eggs will be brought there and will be raised with advanced aircraft equipment. Of course, this second method will ignore all creatures on Earth, therefore they are prioritizing it. Carried out the first plan, and since Cooper was already there, Professor Grand asked Cooper to go to another galaxy with his comrades, to find the astronauts transmitting signals from all 3 planets, and Professor Grand promised that when Cooper came back later, he would have completed gravity problem. Although Cooper agreed with the request, his daughter did not agree that his father had to go, and he did not allow it. Cooper kept begging him, and said he would definitely come back. After that he gave a watch to Murph and said, when he is in space later there will be a difference in space and time. It could be that the time that Cooper is going through is slower than the time on Earth, and when he returns later maybe Murph is the same age with him. However, after hearing that, Murph Mala got even angrier, because that meant that Cooper himself didn't know when he would return, but like it or not Cooper had to go anyway, so he was forced to leave his family to find a new place to live for mankind. Long story short, after the plane took off from the base, Cooper arrived at the intergalactic mothership named Endurance. After landing safely, he and his partner set the coordinates of where they would go, after which they entered a sort of hibernation by sleeping in a place called a cirroclip, which aims to slow down their metabolism, so that when they wake up later they will remain the same condition as before falling asleep. When the plane was close to Saturn they woke up, and Romilly also showed that they were close to a wormhole, which is a shortcut that will speed them up to enter the galaxy in another dimension. After they entered it, they finally arrived at the galaxy in a different dimension. After that they started to discuss about their next step. Based on data and signals that have been given by astronauts before, the 3 planets that they managed to find are claimed to be habitable for humans. However, one of them is very close to a black hole, or they call it a gargantua, an object that has very strong gravity and will absorb anything around it, even light. But they had to dare to take that risk, and in the end they decided to start from the first planet, while looking for and investigating the source of the signal they got. After that Cooper, Dolly, and Amelia went to escape from the mothership using a small plane, while Romilly stayed behind to observe the situation. Short time they managed to land safely on the surface of the planet Mylar, named after the astronaut who first came there. But as long as they saw only waters without any land, Cooper then asked Amelia and Dolly to quickly check where the source of the signal was coming from. Why hurry? Because 1 hour on planet Miller equals 7 years on planet Earth. After a while of searching, they finally found the source of the signal, but all that was visible were the scattered wreckage of the plane. This means the astronauts who boarded it before have died due to the extreme conditions on the planet. Sure enough, a moment later Cooper saw a huge wave of water, which was just waiting to hit them. Immediately, he asked Dolly and Amelia to return to the plane. But in that incident, Dolly did not survive because he was hit by a big wave just before entering the plane, because the wave also caused their plane to malfunction, and like it or not they had to stay for a while to dry the plane's engine, which meant they had to spend tens of years on Earth just to dry the aircraft engine a few hours. After a few hours, the plane's engines finally kick in and they rush off the planet, just before a huge wave hits them. When they returned to the plane, they saw that Romilly had changed and was old, even gray. Romilly said that he had not slept and had always been waiting for their return for more than 23 years. Cooper also felt sad to hear that, and he immediately thought of his family. He immediately checked the messages sent by his family over the span of 23 years, and what he found was, if Tom, his son, was married and had children, while Donald, his father-in-law, had died. And for the first time Cooper sees Murph on his message screen, and is grown up. Murph expressed his disappointment to his father, because his father had promised that he would return when he was the same age as his father, and now Murph's age is the same as when his father left. Cooper felt sorry and seemed unable to believe this, even though it seemed like just yesterday he separated from his family. Meanwhile on Earth, it is shown that Murph has been working at NASA with Professor Grand, and they have never stopped to find the formula for gravity for a giant ship that could carry all of humanity. Until one day Professor Grand fell ill because of his age. Before he died, he revealed the truth to Murph. He said that he had lied to her all this time, because actually the gravitational formula never existed and humanity could not be saved. But Murph doesn't believe it, and somehow he will keep trying until he finds the formula. We return to Cooper. They continue their journey and head to the second planet, which the astronauts previously claimed was fit for habitation, named Planet Man, which is named after the astronaut who discovered it. But after landing on the surface of the planet, no matter how far they look all they see is chunks of ice, which of course this planet is not habitable. When they checked the place they saw the astronauts' previous plane led by Dr. Mann, where it was from this plane that the help signal always appeared. They then entered the plane and opened the cirroclips, which contained Dr. Mann who was in hibernation while waiting for other astronauts to arrive. He felt happy after knowing that another astronaut had come to pick him up. A few moments later Dr. Mann convinced them that this planet was fit for habitation. Then the doctor took Cooper around. But when they were on the edge of a cliff suddenly Dr. Mann took Cooper's respirator, and pushed him down into the abyss. And finally it was revealed that Dr. Mann had been lying and manipulating data. Since this planet is basically uninhabitable, he purposely kept sending help signals just to rob other astronaut spaceships who came there. Just before Cooper ran out of oxygen, he asked Amelia to come pick him up. Meanwhile Romilly, who was on Dr. Mann's plane, finally died after the plane was blown up by Dr. Mann. Dr. Mann immediately left in Romley's plane, and headed to the mothership and intended to take over it. However, due to a botched landing, Dr. Mann's plane explodes as it approaches the carrier, killing him in the explosion. Luckily, Cooper and Amelia managed to land the plane safely. After the damage from the explosion earlier, they had no way to return to Earth with supplies and fuel running low. They then decide to go to the third planet, and this is a gamble. If the third planet is the same as the previous two planets, then they will die, but according to the signals and data sent, this third planet should be habitable like Earth. But because their fuel was running low and the plane was too overloaded, they barely made it to the third planet and stopped near the black hole. For this, Cooper sacrificed himself by detaching his ship to relieve the burden, and so Amelia could go to the third planet. After leaving the mothership, Cooper's plane was sucked into a black hole, where he could not see anything because there was only darkness. When the plane was no longer strong enough to withstand the black hole's gravitational pull, Cooper chose to inject from the plane to save himself. At that time, he slid into a large black ball that appeared out of nowhere. He continued to slide into it, and it turned out that he was in a 5-dimensional space that was directly connected to his room. There he can see little Murph and see his other self in that dimension. Cooper keeps screaming, warning his other self to stay and don't go to space, but no matter how loud he screams they can't hear him, because it's basically their dimension different. So it can be concluded that the ghost that always drops the book at the beginning of the film is Cooper himself from a different dimension. At that time the little Murph didn't realize it, but Cooper didn't give up, so he moved to where the adult Murph was, and finally he started to realize Cooper's existence. He finally knew that the ghost that had been in his room was his own father from another dimension. He also realized that the disturbance in his watch was a signal from his father that helped Murph to solve the formula for gravity. Murph immediately told Tom about this phenomenon, even though it was difficult to understand, but Tom decided to believe his brother. Days later Murph wrote down the codes his father sent him, and finally he managed to find the formula for gravity. After the history of the other dimension changed, the fifth dimension where Cooper is now, suddenly closed and revealed spaceships approaching him from the direction of Saturn. When Cooper realized, suddenly he was inside the ship's facility, and is surprised to learn that the ship brought all of humanity from Earth. A doctor then said if it had been 100 years since the last time Cooper left the Earth, and after Cooper found out Murph was still alive, he immediately went to look for him. But after meeting, Murph was very old and sick, and it seemed like it was only a matter of time. Murph smiled happily to see his father, but he said that parents should not see their child die, so Murph asked Cooper to go and catch up with Amelia on the third planet. On the other hand, it can be seen that Amelia has landed on the third planet, where the planet is in exactly the same condition as on Earth, has the same sky and the same air, making it possible to become the next human habitation. The film ends by showing Amelia walking with satisfaction in her heart, because the mission has been successful. This film is called Interstellar, which will be released in 2014. So, what do you think about this film? Maybe you can write it in the comments column. If you like this video, don't forget to give a like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.